Another week has passed us by. Another Tuesday night is upon us, and that is another night of NXT. We got Falls Count Anywhere matches. We got the NXT title scene getting a little cloudy and a little crowdy. And we got new champions here in NXT, and I'm gonna run through it all for you. My name is Jordan Moser, and this is your NXT recap and review. First up in the night, we have the Falls Count Anywhere match between Leon Ruff and Isaiah Swerve Scott. We see as the bell rings, Leon Ruff comes charging, but Isaiah Swerve Scott, he's smarter than that. You know, he gets his knee up and just looks at him like, you should have known better, bro. You should have known what was going to happen. They eventually go a little back and forth here at the beginning. Eventually, Isaiah Swerve Scott, he catches a suicide dive from Ruff on the outside and just plants him with the Death Valley driver on the apron. He continues to work Ruff over on the outside of the ring mostly, and also on the inside, capping off that sequence with a nice little superplex, only for a 2 count. And we do see later on, as we go into picture-in-picture, he literally throws a toolbox at this man's head, trying to take the homie's head off. I'm like, dang, bro, ain't have to go that far. And Leon Ruff is flabbergasted as well as we just go into picture-in-picture. Throughout the break, we see them fighting at the lockers, in which many attacks occurred during the past couple of weeks, so good to kind of bring it back there during the break. But we do come back. Leon Ruff, he's thinking on his feet. They're on the stage lights, kind of near the lights, and he flips one on and kind of blinds Scott for a minute. He just throws Scott into the scaffold and hits tope off the stage. Very nice, only for a 2 count. But yeah, the back end of this match was incredibly move heavy, like moves galore. We see Leon Ruff, he runs up the steps and hit a reverse Rana off of the apron to the floor on Scott. I was like, dang, he dead. Like, don't do that. Don't play with me like that. Scott eventually rolled out the way to kind of avoid being pinned and kind of take back control. He eventually hits a JML driver off the floor, just going off of the barricade in a nice little sequence of moves, only for a 2 count as well. I thought the match should have ended there, in my opinion, but it kept going, and I'm not mad at it for it. Not mad at all. We eventually see, as they're fighting back in the ring, Leon Ruff had been working on the leg of Isaiah Swerve Scott for the past couple minutes, and he gets on that heel hook, and eventually out the toolbox, he gets that wrench that Scott was trying to throw at him, and he just gets it on as well, trying to wrench that ankle back, but Scott is able to get out of that, of course. But Leon Ruff is not done. He hits that twist and cutter off the apron in the ring. He hits another one on the floor. They're eventually fighting over the barricade, and Leon Ruff's like, I'm going for another one. Nah, I'm going up top, baby. I'm going to the moon. That's what Cameron Grimes said. So he gets up on the ladder in the area, and as he's going for the dive, AJ Francis, one of Scott's entourage, as he comes out and just catches him, he says, you must be outside your mind, boy, and just throws him on the barricade and kind of takes him out. Scott is able to recover. They get back in the ring. He hits one more JML driver for the 1-2-3 and the win for Isaiah Swerve Scott, and him and the rest of his entourage celebrate on the stage as we kind of end the segment off. This was extremely fun to watch. Definitely thought they made the most of the time that they had. It really gave them about 15 minutes to just go wild with everything. Callbacks to the attacks over the past couple of weeks. Very move heavy and very fun just second half of this match. And the right person won. I think Isaiah Swerve Scott, just heel character, especially with the entourage and AJ Francis as his new heavy, is going to be very spectacular to watch. So this was an extremely fun match. Leon Ruff and Scott kind of gave it their all, and this was extremely happy for me. We see backstage, you get a short segment of Johnny Gargano, the North American champion, and Austin Theory trying to talk to Regal, but Scarlett is in his office just chilling. I don't know what they're talking about, but they just chilling. As Johnny Gargano is upset and he goes to leave, Austin Theory, he admires the nails of Scarlett, it seems. They're big nails, apparently, and Scarlett does not really like this at all, and so eventually it gets announced that Karrion Kross and Austin Theory have a match next week, so that's going to be fun. But yeah, very interesting backstage segment to say the least. Nice nails though, Scarlett. Nice nails. Next up, we do have a match between Asher Hale, who I have never seen before in my life, against Cameron Grimes. They're trading headlocks to start. Asher Hale really impressed me with this match. For someone who I had never heard of, he was really fast, very technical, just flying around that ring. Eventually hit a nice drop kick from the top rope. Like, I was very impressed, but it wasn't good enough. It was basically an extended squash. Eventually, Cameron Grimes got a knee to the chest of that boy, and eventually hits the cave-in for the 1-2-3 and the win for Cameron Grimes. This is exactly what it needed to be if you're going to put a match like this on the show. Give Cameron Grimes the credibility and also bring in somebody new like Asher Hale and kind of put him up, give him experience and all that. Can't wait to see him again, of course. But yeah, this is what it needed to be. Next up, we had the tag team match between the grizzled young veterans against Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa. We do see the beginning of this match. All four men are just going at it strength-wise, just with the technical veracity as well, and just trying to gain the upper hand. We eventually see TT kind of eventually slip into a sleeper hold on Zach Gibson, and James Drake, he tries to come in to break it up. He kicks Thatcher in the face, but he was like, this is tough boy season. I hope you understand this. This eventually brings Ciampa in, and both men just go in with clubbing shots on the grizzled young veterans, sending them to the outside as we go into the commercial break. GYV get a little dirty with some ear grabbing and illegal tag to gain control as we come back from break. But eventually Ciampa does get into the match, and he comes in with the blaze of fury. He comes in with those clotheslines and a nice sequence, eventually capped by a running knee only for a 2 count. Later on, this match just breaks down. All four men are just brawling in the ring, just throwing shots inside the ring, outside the ring. We eventually see later on Timothy Thatcher does get a little wrist lock armbar on Zach Gibson, and he's wrenching back on it. James Drake eventually does come in to break it up and just stop the whole thing. This eventually leads to him and Ciampa fighting on the outside of the ring. He takes Drake out one more time just outside on the table, and as we see, the ref is distracted trying to prevent Ciampa from getting back into the ring. Timothy Thatcher hits Zach Gibson with Wade Barrett's shoe. That's right, the announcer's shoe, wherever it came from. He hits him with this shoe and then locks on that Fujiwara armbar, and Zach Gibson taps out. It is a beautiful win for TT, Timothy Thatcher, and Tommaso Ciampa. This is definitely a fun match to watch. Really solid action from all four men. Did not know where Barrett's shoe came from, and I don't really care. It was a lovely thing. Shoes off if you hate Gibson. I love it. But yeah, this is a very entertaining just match with these four men. Definitely puts Ciampa and Thatcher in the next echelon for who's going to challenge for those tag team titles next. So yeah, good stuff all around. Next up, we get a promo from the NXT champion, Karrion Kross. He comes out pretty much just saying that he ain't scared. You know, he bone crusher. If anybody gets that reference, he ain't never scared, bro. Like, he ready to take on all challenges. And next week for Austin Theory, you gonna get it for talking about my wife's nails. That's not exactly what he said, but I'm paraphrasing, but he might as well have said it, frankly. This brings out cool Kyle O'Reilly. He comes in and he gets in Karrion Kross's face, puts his little hand on his chest. He's like, bro, I'm not scared. I'm going to tell you straight to your face. And this is the match that everybody wants, so let's do it. Let's get her done. And this brings out Pete Dunne. He comes down to the ring, just basically saying the same thing, that he wants Kross in the worst way as well and wants to go after that NXT championship. And all of a sudden, this brings back the former NXT champion, Finn Balor. He's like, hey, bro, I beat you, Pete Dunne. I beat you, Kyle O'Reilly. Don't forget, I beat you twice. And Karrion Kross, I'm going to get you too. And then he just attacks, and then he starts the brawl. This is a really nice four-man brawl, which is everybody going at one another. No allegiances or anything like that. And it looks like Karrion Kross is standing tall to just being dominant over everybody. But this eventually brings out the North American champion, Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory, and they just attack, eventually laying out Kross with double super kicks and just a nice shot to the head with that North American title belt as they leave him blank and just leave the ring, leading up to Kross and Theory that's going to happen next week. But this was pretty standard stuff. I don't know what they're kind of leading to in terms of the North American Championship, or the NXT Championship rather. Just seems like everybody's just kind of fighting for a spot at this point, and there's not really a clear path, which is good in some circumstances, but definitely a little weird, just not a clear path at the moment. But yeah, Karrion Kross is doing his job. All three men are incredible and will continue to kind of build their stock coming up in the next couple weeks. But looking forward to Kross and Theory next week, and where that kind of leads the North American champion and NXT champion to go up against each other maybe. But yeah, we'll see. But all in all, just solid stuff here from everybody. Next up, we got the match between Zayda Ramir and LeRae, just the two new women here in NXT going at it. We see a nice, fast, technical start to the match from both women. Eventually, later on, we see Zayda Ramir. She leapfrogs, but somehow transitions that joint into an STF, just wrenching back on the neck of LeRae. One of the cleanest transitions into a submission I had seen in a minute. That joint was beautiful. But LeRae eventually gets out of it and hits a nice number of drop kicks, a good number of amount of drop kicks in this match from LeRae. She eventually goes for one while Zayda Ramir is just sitting on the apron, but Ramir moves and eventually tries to roll her up for a 2 count. That don't work either. She kicks out, but this match does come to an end fairly shortly. It didn't last as long as it should have, but LeRae hits a spinning kick, German suplex, and then a nice T-bone suplex just right on the head of Ramir for the 1-2-3 and the win. Yeah, like I said, definitely short. I thought it would have lasted a little bit longer. Hopefully next time they get a little bit more time, so it wasn't really able to hit that second gear, but just solid action from both women, just showcasing what they could in those 4 or 5 minutes that they got. But yeah, just solid stuff all around for these two. Next up, we have the match between Jake Atlas and LA Knight. He comes in, he's just talking trash at the beginning of the match. It's a really nice line, like, I'm gonna punch you so far, you're gonna need the Atlas to find your way back. Ha ha ha. Funny. When you see the start of this match, Atlas is in control for a bit of the beginning part of this match. He is eventually caught just going for a suicide dive on the outside and just planted and hit with that nice springboard shoulder block from Knight, only for a 2 count as they get back in the ring. Knight eventually fights his way back as they're fighting over in the corner. He avoids a move from Knight. He just lands a good number of kicks, but that don't work. It don't do nothing to him. Knight eventually hits that cutter for the 1-2-3 and the win in a very short squash match. I didn't really like this that much, and it's crazy because I like both guys in the ring, so it should have been better than this. But yeah, it didn't really appeal to me all that much, but definitely just a good way to gain Knight some momentum, I guess, and dig Atlas deeper in this hole, frankly. I wish to see what you have in Atlas. He's so good. But yeah, it was just very basic stuff, I would say, from these two. Next up, we got a promo from Legado del Fantasma Escobar. He starts off just talking about winning the Cruiserweight Championship, and that's his destiny, but he lost it, and now he wants his baby back. He wants Kushida. He's going to end up taking that Cruiserweight Championship back. We see Wild and Mendoza, they get time as well just to call out MSK for those tag team titles as well, because they beat them last week. They beat the brakes off them boys last week, so they deserve their shots at the title. So it looks like everybody is going to be getting their deserved opportunities at their respective opponents. And this brings up Kushida. He pops up on the television Tron, and he's just like, hey, I want you, Escobar, next week. And so that's it. And that was good. And I was like, all right, 2 out of 3 falls. I hope it's the main event. I hope they get time. I am looking forward to that tremendously lovely. So I'm just looking forward to the Cruiserweight Championship match and eventually that tag team title match that MSK and Legado are going to have. That's going to be fire for sure. Next up, very rushed up, like right after the Legato segment, we get a face-to-face from Raquel Gonzalez and Mercedes Martinez leading into their NXT Women's Championship match next week, where they just get the chance to talk, spit at each other, and Mercedes just talk about how she is the blueprint for Raquel and what she's done in her career over the past year and a half, and that she should be the one that's getting her flowers, and eventually she'll get that NXT Championship for it. She calls Raquel cookie cutter, not gritty at all, and I was like, where did that come from? This is not what that's about, like, at all. But Raquel, she comes back, she's like, bro, like, I've accomplished everything that you wish you could do in like a year and a half. You can't touch me. I took the bar where you had it and I like raised it all the way up here so ain't nobody else can reach it. And so he just calls Martinez like her first challenger, but not her last challenger. And that was kind of the end of everything as they just stared each other down. This was pretty okay. Looking forward to the match more than I am to them talking in any capacity, even though Martinez is very confident in that role from the looks of it. But yeah, looking forward to the match next week, and can't wait to get rid of this cookie cutter madness. So I don't want to hear that again at all. And last up in our main event for the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships, we got the champions Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon dressed as Freddie and Jason. Nice little added touch, I like that. Defending against Candice, LeRae, and Indy Hartwell of the way. We see there are no introductions. This match kicks off once they get into the ring. Very physical. Chairs, tables, trash cans are introduced once this match kicks off in like the first 2 minutes. But we see Shotzi and Ember, they do a good job at just separating the way and just kind of taking care of both of them on their own. Eventually they get a trash can on Indy Hartwell's head and just hit a double drop kick to her, only for a 2 count as Candice breaks it up. But we do see later on, as Indy is recovering, she comes back and start dominating, just taking out both Shotzi and Ember on the outside. She begins to stack up chairs just right in front of the barricade, but she is eventually just taken out by both women placed on those chairs, and they try to go for a suicide dive through the ropes to just destroy her on those chairs. And Candice LeRae out of nowhere just sprays a fire extinguisher into the face of Shotzi Blackheart to just take both women out as we go into the commercial break. We see as Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae were in control for most of the break. The champs start to come back. Once we come back, they're just hitting a nice couple of tag team moves. And then from here, it breaks down to some very wild and dangerous moves from these 4 women. We see as Candice LeRae is laid out outside the ring on a ladder, just wedged between the apron and the barricade. Shotzi goes up top and hits a nice diving senton through Candice LeRae and through that ladder as well. It only breaks a little bit, but they both end up on the floor. Very dangerous stuff. We see also in the ring, Ember, she has just Indy just trapped on her head and then just slams her Alabama Slammer style through the table set up in the corner. And that joint only breaks a little bit. I thought Indy was concussed for a second because that joint looked wild, but she eventually kicks out. She seemed to be okay throughout the rest of the matchup. Just some other wild moves. We saw a springboard moonsault through the ladder from Candice LeRae, which is pretty awesome. We see as Shotzi and Indy are fighting on the outside, Indy is laid off across the announce table, and Shotzi goes to the midway point of the scaffold, all the way up there, and just hits a nice splash from the top just through Indy on the table, just taking her out. That was magnifique splash. That was chef's kiss, baby. But we do see the end of this match, which I did not see coming or predict in any way. Candice is kind of taking back control. Ember is just laid out on the table on the outside. Indy, out of nowhere, after being just like slammed through a table like 2 minutes ago, comes back with a springboard elbow. She takes out Ember Moon on the outside through that table. We see as Shotzi and Candice are fighting back in the ring. Candice uses the brass knuckles to her advantage. She hits her, lines up a chair, and then hits that wicked stepsister on the chair for the 1, 2, 3 and the win. Oh my gosh. Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell are the new NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. I'm glad Candice won the title. I'm so glad. I don't know if I like the title change per se, but I like the fact that Candice LeRae, as long as she's been in NXT, deserved a title reign of some sort at some point. So I'm definitely happy for her that she got that, but I did not predict this at all. I did not expect this at all. I definitely expected Shotzi and Ember to kind of have a longer reign, but it looks like they're kind of building up all the teams here in NXT, and I think giving the titles something to chase, like make the title something to chase rather than just having Shotzi and Ember as kind of faces throughout the whole ordeal is kind of a good way to go about it for now. So I'm looking forward to see what Candice and Indy kind of do with those titles. But yeah, definitely a fun matchup. I kind of liken it to the first matchup between Leon Ruff and Isaiah Scott. Just a bunch of big moves. Wasn't really a lot of selling, I would say, in this last match. Just not a lot of stuff, except for like Indy maybe, but not really a lot of it there. But didn't take away from the match at all, just nitpicking from me. But yeah, definitely fun stuff in this main event, and a title change to end this episode of NXT. All in all, a very exciting and newsworthy episode of NXT. Like I mentioned, new NXT Women's Tag Team Champions, and we'll see how they kind of go forward and move throughout the next couple of weeks and months. Very crowded NXT title scene that we're getting, just with all 4 men that were involved with that segment tonight, and even Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory to an extent. Just seeing how they're gonna face off against Karrion Kross next week. Lovely just matches on this show. We saw the beginning match with Isaiah Swerve Scott and Leon Ruff firmly ascending like Scott to that new realm. It's just like, hey, I'm one of the best heels in NXT now, so I'm looking forward to see how that progresses. But yeah, it's a really awesome show. Kind of some duds here and there, but all in all, very, very solid stuff. Looking forward to the next couple weeks that we got coming up. But yeah, that is gonna be it from me. You will see more videos throughout the week. You got AEW coming up tomorrow. Blood and Guts is coming, baby. But that's gonna be it. I'm out. Peace. Love yourself. Love everybody. Enjoy your life, please, because the world is crazy out here. We wildin'. But yeah, y'all take care.